Roller coasters always want to be the tallest, the fastest, the steepest, have the tallest loop, accelerate the quickest, or have the longest tunnel. And there are loads of these record-breaking roller coasters around the world, with one of them keeping their record for the most amount of inversions for 12 years now. The Smiler at Alton Towers in the UK, it flips riders upside down 14 times, beating the previous record held by Colossus at Thorpe Park, also in the UK. Damn, us as a nation are so inversion hungry. But my question is, with it taking 11 years to beat that previous record for inversions, it's now been that long since the Smiler opened. So will we soon see a coaster that breaks that inversion record? Or will we see a coaster that breaks all or any of those records I mentioned at the start over the next few years? Today I'm going to discuss the possibilities of when these records could be broken, whether it be the tallest, the fastest, or of course that 14 loop-de-loop record on the Smiler. Will that ever be beaten? Be sure to watch till the end because there's actually a lot of interesting things here, and also be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because I'm going to be making loads more speculation videos now the season is starting. So yeah, stay tuned for that and subscribe. Thanks. But you might think that today's video is purely just talk. No, because not only will I discuss the possibilities of the new record-breaking coasters, but with some of them, I'm going to try and make it a reality. Not outside of my garden, because my house isn't a steel track fabrication warehouse, but in a simulation game, so we can sort of get to see what these new record-breaking coasters could look like and see if they are possible. Starting with one of the more interesting records that hasn't been broken for approximately 9 years, the tallest inversion on a coaster, but specifically the vertical loop. And the tallest loop on a roller coaster is actually held by two different ones at the exact same height, which, although they're clones, surely one is slightly taller by a matter of nanometers, but we'll go with it. Splash at Lua Adventure in China and Hypercoaster at Land of Legends in Turkey. Hypercoaster, what a name. Both, funnily enough, Mack hypercoasters, and they drop off this huge lift hill straight into a 171 foot tall vertical loop around the lift hill. And I can't lie, that is so cool. But the tallest loop, will that ever be beaten? I think it will, you know, because if any manufacturer decides to do something similar with it going around that lift hill, all they really have to do, I'm going to use the simulator here, and we're going to use a Mack as well, if I can find it. Where on earth is it? Am I blind? Where? Then all they really have to do is make a taller sort of lift hill right here. And then once it's dropped down, all you have to do is just make the loop even bigger, and you've got a 200 foot vertical loop around the lift hill. There you go. I think that is possible, you know. Oh, that clearance. That is a head chopper and a half. I mean, look here, you've got this massive drop, which is a lot taller than all of their hypercoaster drops in general. And then that loop, the 200 foot tall one, there it goes. Wow, look at that catwalk head chopper, and obviously this bit at the end, that wouldn't exist, I hope. I think vertical loops aren't exactly the most exciting inversion anymore, which is why as much as I could see this being broken, I don't think it's going to be broken very quickly, because I don't think anyone's bothered about it. I mean, there is that crazy world record breaking roller coaster coming in place of King Dakar, so who knows if that will have the tallest vertical loop, although give it 19 years and that'll probably get imploded as well. But speaking of that coaster, the Coaster King Dakar, the tallest of any inversion in the world, is 239.5 feet tall, and it's actually a very similar element to what Car used to do. A top hat element that is inverted on the coaster Spitfire at Six Flags Qiddiya, and as much as that park isn't open yet, the coaster is very much built. So I'm counting it. The fact Six Flags have gone and broken that record from the previous owner of it, Steel Curtain at Kennywood, I think they did it the easy way, because the Steel Curtain way, where you go up a lift hill and it drops down a little bit into a pre-drop and then does the inversion, which is 197 foot tall, I think that is a very cool way of doing it. And I'm going to go a bit rogue, but you might understand what I mean in just a moment. I think a B&M wing coaster could break that record very easily, because most wing coasters start with this lift hill going upwards like so. That's probably not steep enough. There we go, that's better. And like said, most wing coasters drop into an inversion like so. So they'll actually sort of curve down like this. And I don't know if this is actually going to work or not. But considering at Six Flags over Texas, they're building a B&M Giga dive coaster, it looks like, which means it's over 300 foot tall. I definitely could see the manufacturer doing something like this with the B&M wing coaster, just a very, very tall drop. And as you can see, it just hangs there for a little bit. and then drops down like that. Yeah, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, because I feel like a wing coaster with that tall of a drop, they could do a lot better and actually make something pretty decent, but there you go. That is so rough. Similar to B&M nowadays, to be fair. I got the bounce on point. Going over to a wooden roller coaster now, which holds a record just worldwide, not just for wooden roller coasters, and it might be one of the greatest world records I've ever heard of. Hades 360 at Mount Olympus has the longest tunnel ever on a ride, that being 800 feet long. So would a park go about trying to beat the tunnel record? Someone could try and beat the record for the longest launch as well and stick a launch 800 foot long in a tunnel. Or when Alton Towers build a very noisy 800 foot long coaster, the locals will want them to put it in a tunnel to stop the noise. And then Merlin could get another record, woohoo! But speaking of Merlin, they actually do hold a record, or some think they do, at least, I don't see ever being broken again. And that is on their coaster Stealth at Thorpe Park. In the UK, it has the highest acceleration on a roller coaster in existence. And I say it might have that record to some people because max force over in Six Flags Great America goes 0 to 78 miles an hour in 1.8 seconds, which is crazy, but Stealth goes 0 to 80 miles an hour in the same amount of time. So I don't really understand that argument, but go with what you want. Stealth uses the hydraulic launch, which Intamin used to manufacture and now don't. And Max Force uses a compressed air launch by S&S, and that actually opened only 6 years ago. So there is a possibility, but with the running costs and the way that launches are going nowadays, everyone just seems to be switching to LSMs. LSMs are getting faster and faster at acceleration, so we could see it beaten one day. But I can't lie to you, 0 to 80 in 1.8 seconds is a crazy amount of speed in such a short amount of time. I do not think that is going to be beaten for a very long time. If that record is beaten in the next couple years, I'll eat my other shoe. I said it, and I actually believe in this one because I don't think it'll happen. But something that has happened and hasn't been very good is the fact a roller coaster was beaten to a record by 0.5 of a degree. I'm talking about the steepness of a drop on a roller coaster. The record is currently held by TMNT Shellraiser at Nickelodeon Universe indoors, because it's actually an indoor roller coaster. Yes, like said, this has a max vertical angle of 121.5 degrees, which beats the previous holder, Takabisha in Fuji-Q Highland, by 0.5 degrees. How jammy can you get? Now, I don't like that from Nickelodeon Universe, so I'm going to say that this record will be beaten. But the only way I could see it being beaten is if that drop mechanism that they have on those two coasters goes even slower over that top section and allows the speed afterwards to sort of not be too death-defying. Because look, as you can see, it slows down. I mean, it stops on this one, as you can see, and then it should release. And that is probably, that alone might be too much speed. But the coaster drops that way, and if you actually line up the track so it actually sort of stays with it going downwards so we can check the degrees of it, that is actually 126 degrees. So technically, I've broken the world record. Thank you guys, thank you guys. And that is cool, but technically if you break it hard enough, you just have one of these things. And they exist already. So maybe I didn't beat the world record. But tell you what, a record that I have broken in the past. The tallest, the fastest, the longest, and the biggest drop on a roller coaster. The reason I rank all of them together is because a roller coaster opening at Six Flags Qiddiya again, Falcon's Flight, breaks every single one of those records. It's the tallest at 639.8 foot tall. We've just skipped out 500 foot coasters and gone straight to 600. It goes 155.3 miles an hour. It is 13,944 foot long and a 519 foot tall drop. It's going to be a monster of a coaster. And again, as much as it's not open yet, the track has been completed. So again, I'm counting it. And I would go onto my simulator game and build a version that is all of those but bigger. But I've already done that because I made a 1,000 foot tall roller coaster, which is just ridiculous. And it has a 900 foot drop on it, and it goes a lot faster than 155 miles an hour. And I think it was almost 20,000 feet long, which is just so stupid. But would Falcon's Flight be beaten in real life? We've seen Intamin go and beat all of those records in one for this year. So would they go and do it again? I don't think they would for a while, but if you don't keep up on This Past Week in Theme Parks, which is a series I do, if you don't keep up on that, subscribe and check that out. Right at the start of this year, there was an article released, and it was from someone who works in the industry and is a very credible source, saying that there is a manufacturer of roller coasters right now that has a plan for a 1,000 foot tall roller coaster, yes, in real life, that would shatter all of those records that I've just mentioned, and all they need is a park and space for it. That's crazy. I think Falcon's flight has definitely piqued the interest of trying to get the biggest, the tallest, the fastest anywhere else. And obviously there's a lot of money being pumped into that park, and that is probably the only reason they have this coaster being built. But you never know, somewhere over in America, I don't think it'll happen over here in Europe, that's just reaching way too far. The US or somewhere in the Middle East definitely could get one taller, because again, that could be the record-breaking coaster replacing King Dakar, and I would love to see the coaster wars continue of trying to beat that record. But a record that we hold here in the UK and has not been beaten since we had it before is the amount of inversions on a roller coaster, at 14 on the Smiler at Alton Towers. Manufactured by Gerstlauer, it opened in 2013 and it is just one mess of a ride. Of all the parks to build a coaster that has 14 inversions, they chose the one that can't go above the trees. But the fact they managed to compact it into that small space and, you know, it hasn't been beaten since, is definitely very telling, because I don't know if it is going to be beaten, and if it does, I think it won't be beaten by much. I know the Smiler with 14 inversions could be quite sickening to some people, and any more would be just way too much. But the Smiler still does a good job of parting those two sections up. So you do one inversion right at the start before the first lift hill, you have a little break, then you do the next 6, and then you do the final 7 after another lift hill. There is the possibility that a coaster could have 15 or 20 inversions and actually part it up into 3 different parts. Or using the Smiler's layout that you can probably purchase off the Gerstlauer website, because there's literally a base layout of it on there, you could just take out some of the dead spots or the sort of bits that aren't inversions, such as the airtime hills or maybe even a brake run, and then just turn it into inversions. So here's something I made a while back. You can see it goes into the dive loops there, and literally the airtime hills are just replaced, and there you go, it's a 0G roll. Ow, that looked painful. And then you could also use the butterfly loops on the second half and have it go down into what was the airtime hill on the ride, but is now a painful stall element. Or, you know, like I did after the 2 final inversions, you could add one more, because why not? I don't know what I was doing with this game, man. I was so bad. But a park could purchase the Smiler, but add those extra inversions on, because space won't be an issue, and also adding that extra inversion won't cost more, because it's just probably maybe one extra piece of track, and they're just twisting it. Or, like mentioned before, with the whole King Dakar replacement, or even somewhere like Six Flags Qiddiya, I don't know. Somewhere will have money pumped into it, so much so that they could make their own 15 inversion coaster, or even 20. I imagine somewhere like Cedar Point would probably go for that record, because they seem to love pleasing enthusiasts, and to have so many tall roller coasters there and then have the most inverting would make sense. But at the same time, Alton Towers took a very big risk building the Smiler, with how sort of compact it is, and the amount it goes upside down is, again, very sickening. So would anyone want to one-up that? I don't know, you know. The way coasters are going at the minute, I actually don't think that the Smiler's record will be beaten. Much like the vertical loop argument of the fact that inversions nowadays are so much more exciting, like you've seen some of the ones on Voltron, Hyperia, and loads more, I think they're just going to focus on putting them in their coasters more than putting loads of basic ones in. But no, I'm going to say that the Smiler's record won't be beaten for another 10 years, I reckon. I don't think we're going to see another coaster like that at all anytime soon. No, I won't be making any bets on that, because I'm not an idiot. And 2, I'm quite happy if it does keep the record, because then that means that Britain still has the world record for the most amount of inversions, and I'll take that. Like I said though, it is possible, and I have made a fair share of very much inverting coasters before, but they haven't been that realistic. So 1,500 likes and I will build a 15 inversion coaster, completely different to the Smiler, but just something crazy but not. Leave a like if you want to see that, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this speculative video. Thanks for watching.